Well, happy 4th of July. This is a big day, of course, for the Americans. They like to celebrate on the 4th of July with their traditional beverages, as they are seen doing here. I know this is a bit of a big deal for lots of you, and I hope that it's going brilliantly. But I've got a suggestion of my own on this 4th of July, your 250th anniversary, and that is this. That basically it's not too late to undo this mistake and come back into the fold. I think that is the way to be going about these things. Now, I appreciate there may be a teeny tiny amount of pushback from some of you on this notion. You think that potentially this is not the optimal strategy at this time, but let me try and make an argument that is persuasive as to why returning to the fold of the empire is probably your best bet at this point. Now, I'm going to do this by addressing your top concerns. So we've got here this poll of US voters, what really matters to you guys. And I think we're going to go through this one at a time until we've convinced you that the plan that I'm setting out is in fact the entirely correct strategy. So the first one there, addressing our past, that is apparently a huge issue for Democrats. Now, I'm not sure exactly what they're referring to, but presumably this is the break with the crown. So, the top issue there, we can deal with that under this plan of getting you back into the empire. What's next? Oh, yeah, dealing with race relations. Well, good news for you there, because I can assure you that the British Empire knows everything there is to know about dealing with uppity ethnics. We have got this down perfectly. And I would also add that we have perfected a way of doing it that makes us loved long after we are gone. So, a few years back, I spent a few months in Delhi, and I can tell you that whenever the locals wanted to impress you, they would take you down to, the British bit of Delhi and say, look, how impressive is this? And I had multiple Indians come up to me during my stay and saying some variation of, I think you guys should take back over again. We are good at this whole empire business. You try walking through Iraq or Afghanistan as an American. You bless you, you're top chaps. We do love you. But you're not very good at this colonial administration thing. So I think that we can get that down, and we can solve the problem. Now, I'll tell you the trick. This is how you do it. What you do is you appoint a viceroy to run the bits of the empire, and then you appoint a local prince or Maharaja to administer for you. Now, I haven't quite decided, and I think it's probably a little bit early stage, to say who should be the Viceroy of America. I'm thinking quite possibly Jeremy Clarkson would be a top candidate. And possibly, a bit speculative, but, possibly Kanye West would make an excellent Maharaja of Detroit or something like that. It would have to be something like Detroit. Don't put him in charge of New York. That wouldn't go well. But you see, we understand the sensitivities and the details of getting all this colonial stuff right. The job of your local prince or Maharaja, you see, it has to be somebody who can understand the hopes, the dreams, and the aspirations of the people that they are ruling over, and then mercilessly whip them into shape for the empire. So yes, I think that would go extremely well. Right, back to the issues. What's next? Oh, dealing with gun policy. Now, this was something that came up actually in response to my tweet suggesting this. A lot of Americans seem to be under the impression that we do not have, as this guy puts it here, guns and air conditioning. Well, I can put that notion to rest immediately because, as you can see there we go. That's my own personal gun collection. So we're covered on that one. And furthermore, we've actually got air conditioning in this very office here in Swindon. It's not particularly effective. I have multiple times addressed this building management, and they assure me that the air condition is working. I don't know what it is working on. Possibly a new translation of Beowulf or Fermat's Last Theorem or something. It's certainly not producing any cold air. But the fact remains is we do have air conditioning and we do have guns, and therefore I think that should address your next consideration. Right, back to the list. What else are you looking for next? Illegal immigration and deportations. Yes. Now this is clearly something that America needs to get to grips with, because you've got an awful lot of people that need deporting. I'm thinking of, well, I mean, first of all, the what do you call them? The undocumented immigrants. Well, they've all got to go, haven't they? And repeat violent offenders, they've obviously got to go. The woke, Antifa, BLM, they've all got to go. The federal bureaucracy, DOJ, FBI, CIA, IRS, CDC, AFT, ATF, they've all got to go. The bureaucrats, the IRS, they've got to go. The legacy media, yes, CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, NPR, yeah, all of those have got to go. The trust and safety teams of Google and Meta. Anyone with an OnlyFans, Hollywood writers and vegans, I would say, they've all got to go. And you're going to say to me, well, how is the British Empire going to solve that problem? Well, the British Empire have got this one figured. We know exactly what to do with the undesirables when they need deporting. We have Australia for precisely that reason. So rest assured, we can solve that issue for you as well. Right, back to the list. What's next? Managing the size of the federal government. Well, I mean, obviously, it would be zero. So, talk about overachieving on that particular one. What's next? Levels of taxation. Yes, I think you're right to be concerned about the levels of taxation. So what does a typical American have to deal with in terms of taxation? Well, you got it varies, where you are and stuff. But there's federal income tax, isn't there? That's like 10 to 37% because it's a progressive tax of your income. Social Security and Medicare. That is what is that? That is 7.65% or 15.3% if you are self-employed. So that's quite high. State income tax. Again, it depends on the state, and that can be anywhere between 0% and 13.3%. So that's quite high. Sales tax, 6 to 10%, depending on the state. Property tax, 1 to 2% annually on property, and then you've got a whole bunch of other taxes, gas taxes, petrol, obviously, but capital gains, sin taxes on various alcohol and cigarettes and all that sort of stuff, and various fees, and what it all ends up looking like is this. This is a typical American's pay slip who's earning 70 grand a year. And look at all those deductions down the side, tax and more tax, and then state tax, and then, premiums and contributions. I suppose that bit is optional, but, that often goes, and other withholdings. So, after all of these deductions, you're lucky to be keeping, the low 60% of whatever it is you make. Now, what would that look like under the British Empire? Well, we kept things, a lot more neat and tidy. So you get your gross income. Direct taxes would be zero. Payroll taxes would be zero. You'd need to pay a little bit of state colonial levies for, town defence and roads and the local militia and so on. That would be about $50. Imperial duties on your tea, that would be about £20. $20. None of that mandatory health insurance stuff, and you get to keep something like 98% of your pay packet. Tell me that is not a particularly attractive offer. Now, I know what you Americans are like. You will insist, if we go back to the colonial system of taxation, you will insist on occasionally tarring and feathering our tax collectors. Now, I've thought about this. and I have decided that this is basically acceptable. So yes, that is fine. You can do that. What's next? Making wise foreign policy decisions. That is our final issue. And look, I want to reassure you that there is one primary wise foreign policy decision, and I'm sure we can all agree with this. It is to deal with the French. The most important consideration that we have at this and at all other times. Now, you might be thinking, well, look, what role do we get to have in this? And the British Empire has long used distant auxiliaries to bolster their ranks. The Scots were the backbone of the British army. We made use of the Sikh cavalry quite a lot as well, and so there is genuinely a role for something that you are actually super good at. You can't do the administration once you've conquered something, but doing the blowing stuff up, particularly in regards to the French, I think you could genuinely excel at this role. You could really make a meaningful contribution to the expansion of the British Empire, dealing with the French and all of these good things. So hopefully I've made a pretty persuasive case as to why you should end this experiment in independence, and you should come home and rejoin the empire, and everything will be rosy, and all of your top concerns can be dealt with being part of the empire. I salute you. Thank you.